Hello, it's Indira from indiartzcreations. Thank you for joining me and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, I am a fluid artist, an abstract artist, and my concentration right at this particular moment is acrylic paint pouring. So this video is to discuss what you need to get started with acrylic paint pouring, and then I'm going to do some paint mixing with the pouring medium so that you can see that. So let me tell you what the materials are that you need to get started. Canvases, paint, popsicle sticks, a water bottle, 6-ounce squeeze bottles if that's how you want to pour your paint. If you like to pour your paint and store it, you can do that. You can also just pour it as you go along. A torch, some push pins. And the push pins are to lift your canvas up, but you can also do that different ways, and I'll discuss that as well. And then different size cups. So I have I have 2-ounce cups, I have 3-ounce cups, and then I have some 8-ounce cups, 12, and so on and so forth. And so you use the different size cups depending on how much paint you need. And let's see, masking tape or painter's tape. So the reason you would need different types of tape is depending on the size of your canvas. So I'm going to show you a canvas that I've already taped. So this is taped with masking tape. But if I was using a bigger canvas, say a 2x4 feet or anything that's larger where this is wider, your frame is wider, then you may want to go with a painter's tape. And then I use push pins sometimes, but it definitely depends on what technique I'm using. Sometimes it depends on what technique I'm using, whether I'm going to use push pins or if I just feel like I need the canvas raised higher. So it just depends. So these are just standard size push pins. They do have like larger push pins or jumbo size push pins. So it's just a preference. And again, you want this leveled. So right now these are just going in the hole, which I don't really want them to go in the hole. I kind of just push them in this one's in that hole where I don't want it to be. Okay, so this is, like I said, it's already taped, and popsicle sticks. So you can use popsicle sticks for different reasons. You can use a popsicle stick to make sure that your tape is all the way down. And why do you tape the backs of them? You tape the backs of them in case, so definitely if you were wanting to sell it, you would want to tape the back so that the back is nice and neat, or if you were giving it away as a gift, or if you're just meticulous and you don't want to have paint on the back of the canvas. So you would just, press the popsicle stick along the edges. And you're doing that so that you make sure that the tape is secure around the edges, so that when you're pouring the paint, and of course you're going to get paint on your hands and everything, it won't seep through, and that's why you're securing it. Okay, so then I mentioned that, and then you can also, use this stick to stir your paint. And then I had mentioned that you want to have a water bottle. So you want to have a water bottle because you want to be able to water the canvas, or spray the canvas with some water, I should have said. And you do that because you want to make sure that the canvas is as tight as it can be. Like this is a little loose. Maybe you might not be able to see it. So I'm just going to spray it. Try to also always make sure that you don't spray the wood. And so I just spray it a little. And then I just rub my hand in here just to just to make sure that the water is like evenly distributed in there. So this canvas doesn't have any tape yet, but I'm not going to tape the whole thing. But if I was taping, I like to cut the edges just so that it's neat. So I would just, you know, put the tape on. I would cut it, I would try to cut it a little above where it's going to end. And why am I cutting it a little above? I'm cutting it a little above because I'm already going to have to put tape on this side. And I'm just going to do this last side and then we're going to be done with that, because I think that's kind of like, you know, self-explanatory as to how to tape. I'm not going to do this perfectly. So again, I would cut and then I would be done. And of course, you know, I would do the whole thing. So now this canvas, I've sprayed it. You want to make sure that the canvas dries before you use it. And then this would be ready to go. So then, depending on what I was going to do, I would either put some push pins in it, or I may just use some cups, depending. So, besides the size, why would you use different cups? So I like these because they're sturdy. However, these serve a very good purpose, because when you're doing different techniques, you may want to have the ability to kind of squeeze it and then pour like this. And there are techniques where you do that. There's called like a kissing pour, where you would fill your cups up, both of your cups at the same, you would fill both of your cups, and then you would squeeze and you would pour at the same time. And the idea is that these are kissing, they're coming together and they're kissing. And you know, this is a ounce larger, so you might want to use it for size. Oh, okay, so another thing I mentioned that you need is a butane torch. So you need a torch to pop the air bubbles. So sometimes when you're putting your paint down on your canvas, if you've seen any of the videos, you hear me speak about negative space. So the negative space is the first color that you put down. And primarily, my negative spaces have been either black or white. I do some colored negative spaces, but primarily black or white. And so when I first put the paint down, it may have some air bubbles. So I use the torch and I torch it to pop the air bubbles. And you want to pop the air bubbles because when your paint dries, you don't want it to dry with air bubbles. It wouldn't look good. And then when you go to varnish it, it wouldn't look good that way either. Another thing, I don't use silicone. People use silicone to produce cells. So I'm always excited when my cells are made organically just by whatever technique I'm using. Another use for the torch is that after you've applied your paint, you've poured your paint, you've tilted your canvas, and you have it in a desired composition that looks nice to you, you may go back over with the torch. Again, you might be using it because you see some air bubbles, but you could also be using it because sometimes, depending on how the paint is applied to the canvas, like if you have a color that you don't really necessarily see that has come up from under some of the paint, sometimes the torch will help with that. And the torch could also help with cells, but that's not the primary way that you get cells. The primary way that people get cells in a painting is mainly from using silicone. However, I did do a painting, and this video hasn't posted yet, but I'll show you the painting. So I did this painting, and I have like tons and tons of cells. And so these cells came up just by the nature of the technique that I was doing. And for this particular painting, I did a swipe, and it looks nothing like a swipe, but I kept it, and I've named this painting COVID. And it's funny because I wanted to do a COVID painting and I didn't quite know how, or yeah, I didn't know how I would get the red to intertwine with the black and the gray primarily, and then that came out. I was working on another project, and that just came out by accident. It wasn't by design that painting came out like that. And again, although I did do a certain technique, it doesn't look like the technique that I did, but it still came out and it formed something different that I like. So I think I've said everything. I think I said squeeze bottles. I apologize. I don't believe I said the kitchen scale though. So this is the scale. And so for me, I still measure all of my paints. And yeah, I still measure everything. So some people, you know, when you get good at it and everything and you don't want to measure, but there are still people that are very good, that still like to measure. So I think that that's just like a personal preference whether you want to measure or not, but I do still measure. And I use, so for a 6-ounce bottle, we're going to use 80 grams, I measure in grams, 80 grams of Floetrol, 40 grams of paint, and then 30 grams of water. And that is a little over 5 ounces. I can't remember if it's like 5.2, I believe. And then that'll give me just enough room, because this is a 6-ounce bottle, to just shake it. So I'm going to do three. Let's see. Okay, I knew I saw it. Okay, so one thing I didn't talk about is the different types of paint. So there are just so many paints on the market, and they range from, let me see if I have one. They range from 50 cents. This is Apple Barrel, and you can find this at Walmart. And of course, with the pandemic and everything, and some things closed, and I had to go to Walmart a couple of times, you know, I was able to just pick that up. But I have quite a few of my regular colors. So some of the brands that I use are Liquitex Basics, and they have a variety of colors. And you can find this at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. I don't think like these brands, some of these brands I'm going to talk about, you can't find like at Walmart. And then Artist's Loft, I use this, and this is Michael's brand. And I also want to show this big one, because this, I buy the Flow Acrylic for the negative space I was speaking of. So you know, this is the biggest size that I think I've seen, at least in the store. It's 32 ounces and it's $10, so that goes a long way. Well, depending on how much you paint. Master's Touch is Hobby Lobby's brand, so you can get that at Hobby Lobby. And I think those are all the brands. This is another one. Anita's, I like Anita's too. When so when I was first starting out, I did kind of buy like the 4 ounces or this size. I think this is 8 ounces. So I did buy those, but then every now and again I would be in Hobby Lobby and I would want like a color that I didn't have, and I didn't know if I would like it, or I didn't want to, you know, invest and put it in one of these bottles if I didn't think I would use it a lot. So I would just pick up some of these 2-ounce bottles of Anita's, and they have, you know, they have a variety of colors. And yeah, I wanted to show you one other thing. So Liquitex, and there's Liquitex, there's Golden. Golden is another paint brand, and that's like a top of the line paint brand. And so it's very expensive. However, you don't need a lot of it. So with this, when I'm measuring like 40 grams to 80 grams of Floetrol, with Golden, because it is so expensive. The more expensive it is, the better pigment it is, and so you don't need as much. So, you know, you may be able to use the same 80 grams and you may just put like a few drops in, because that's how you kind of do golden. You do about a drop. So you don't necessarily, you do not measure it the way that you measure the other paints. So then this other product that I wanted to show you, this is a gloss, medium, and varnish. So this is a pouring medium in and of itself. And the good thing about this is that it serves two purposes. So it's a pouring medium and it's a varnish. So then you wouldn't have to worry about varnishing your painting afterward. This, I haven't used it much. I think I picked it up one time. It was on sale. So if I were using this, definitely I would maybe use like 2 to 1. So 2 to 1 ratio with whatever you're going to use as a pouring medium. So if you're going to use glue all as a pouring medium, 2 parts glue all or Liquitex pouring medium or whatever to 1 part paint is basically a good ratio to do, and then you can pour your water in to get it to a certain consistency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up 3 bottles, and then I'm going to do a 2-ounce cup, and I'll tell you what the ratio is for that. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to turn on the already set to grams. So I'm going to first pour in. So I'm going to place this on the scale. And okay, so it's saying that it weighs 31 grams already. So I'm going to clear it. And I'm sorry that I can't zoom in. Yeah. So I just put it in this squeeze bottle just because it's just easier for me, but definitely you don't have to pour your Floetrol, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. Of course you don't have to pour your Floetrol, and you can pour directly in wherever you have it. One thing about Floetrol, and I meant to show you a bottle of it. So this is Floetrol, and you can find this, excuse me, my nose is itching. You can find this at any home modeling store, I guess is what Home Depot is called. So the thing about Floetrol, you want to make sure that you, oh my gosh, it escapes me. You want to make sure that you strain it, excuse me. You want to make sure that you strain the Floetrol. This is a paint additive, and the reason you want to strain it is because you want to get any clumps out. You don't want to get clumps in your paint. So what I normally do is I strain it and I put it in something bigger, and then I use a funnel and I put it in here. And again, it's just, I find this easier, especially like if I'm only pouring like 2-ounce cups and things. So that's what I do with that. So again, I'm going to put this on and we're going to clear it so it's cleared. So then I'm going to pour in 80 ounces. Oh, yeah, that's good. I couldn't remember if I wanted to do it this way or the other way, but it's fine. It's going fast. And actually, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I forgot. I normally will put the paint in first and then the Floetrol. So now I'm going to clear it again. I'm going to put 40 grams. I think I said ounces. I apologize. I'm going to put 40 grams of paint in. And so if you were to go over a little bit, it definitely would not be the end of the world. And it's not, you know, it's really no hard or fast rule of this. it really depends on how, well, it does, it depends on the technique, and then it depends on how you feel. Of course, it can't be like too runny like water, and you don't want it too thick, because then it's not going to move around the canvas good or pour onto the canvas good. But you know, if you didn't want to weigh it the way that I do, that's fine also. So actually, this went over 5 grams, so I had 41. And now I'm going to do 30 of water. What kind of water is this? This is actually distilled water. Whoa. Alright. So why distilled water? So when I first started, when I was looking at different things like online of how to mix paint and all, I saw something that said use distilled water. And one of the rules, one of the thought processes behind that is that you would want to use distilled water because some people's regular spigot water isn't good, and you don't want the impurities to get in your paint, on your paint, and in your paint, on your painting, in your paint. Okay, so then you just shake it up, and you can't see it because it's a dark color. So now I'll do the blue. Of course, I'll clear the scale again, and I did that in the reverse order. I normally will do the paint first. And sometimes I'll do the paint first. If I'm low on paint, I would definitely want to do it first so I know how much paint I have, and then that can dictate, you know, the amount of Floetrol and water I would use. So I'm going to pour, or I'm going to squeeze 40 grams of paint in. Exactly 40 this time. I didn't go over. And now I'm going to do the 80. Now I'm going to do the 30. Oh, that was 32. So I'm going to shake again. Okay. Get those two. So I'll do the red real quick. And then I want to mix up some in a little cup for a project I'm going to do. I'm sorry I'm quiet. I have to kind of concentrate a little bit. 41. 82. I did 82 because I did. Oh my goodness. I'm getting tired. I'm not going to do it again. I'll have to redo that because I put too much water and I wasn't looking at what I was doing. And it was funny because I was like, that's coming out kind of thick. Then, okay, so I'm going to, I need to mix up some of this yellow. Okay, so for a little guy like this, it's only 2 ounces. So you would do 5 ounces of paint, 10 ounces of Floetrol, and 4 ounces of water. And if you go over, again, it's not the end of the world. You could just double, like, you know, since it's a 2 to 1. So this is 6, so I'll do 12. Little 4. I'm still going to just do 4 for the water. Okay. And so then we'll use a popsicle stick. But let me do one other thing. Let me just do this one, get this one out the way. I think I'm going to do a bottom reverse dip. Is what I'm preparing these paints for. I'm happy I thought about something. Actually, for this, and it's just for the technique, I'm actually going to do more like 1-to-1, and then I'm going to look at it to see what it looks like. And why am I doing 1-to-1? I'm going to see, because with this particular technique, I'm only going to do, I'm going to do like 2 grams of water. Okay. It wound up being 3, but that's fine. And the reason why I'm doing more like a 1-to-1 ratio is only because of the technique that I'm doing. So as I just said, I'm going to do what's called a bottle pour. And for that technique, you need the paint to be a little thicker. I've done that technique a couple of times. Like, I'm not sure if you would be able to see, but the paint isn't falling off of the stick very good. So this is what you would consider to be thick paint. Well, now it looks like it's falling off more, but this is thicker, we know, because it's a 1-to-1 ratio. And this one, sometimes the paint might come out like a little lumpy, and when it does that, you just have to keep on stirring it, because you don't want it to be lumpy when you go to apply it. This still seems like it's not really thick, but it's not falling off the stick the way that it should. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you could see how it was just like coming off effortlessly. I think people describe that as warm honey when it comes off like that. But again, it will depend on when you start painting how you feel about your paint. As long as it's thin and it can flow, you're fine. So what is a bottle pour? It is when you cut a soda bottle and you put the paint. So you would, so of course you have your negative space. So in my case, I'm going to use black as my negative space. And I'm going to, this would be black, all black. One of them fell out because I was like, why does that seem so lopsided? So this would be all black. Then you would put your bottle on, and then you would start pouring your paint. So for these, I'm going to do, for this one, I'm going to do purple and yellow and white in between. Yeah. So let me see. I'm going to just go ahead and do this painting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit my canvas in this tray. And I'm sitting it in a tray so that the paint can fall in here. I usually will like put another piece of plastic on the table and then let it go from there. But because this canvas is so small, I forgot to mention that you would want to wear gloves. I don't always wear gloves. It just depends. Much as possible, but we do have a shortage of gloves right now, so I just wear them depending on what I'm doing, if I have some available. So I'm going to start with the black. Let's see how much is in here. I need to pour some more black. I mean, I need to, you know, measure, I should say. See, but there are a ton, not a ton, but a great deal of air bubbles. You know what? I saw this lady do this. Just try to preserve some of your paint instead of always wasting the paint. That wasn't worth the effort because it kind of spilled down too much. It would be easier if I would have just put it in a big cup. If you remember, I said I'm going to do the bottom bottle pour. I'm trying to get this last corner if you're wondering what I'm doing. And, you know, I just thought about something. I'll be right back. Because, I don't know. Can you see? Down originally, so then I couldn't remember how the camera looked if you could see. Okay, so we would use the torch. We would pop the air bubbles. We're going to place the bottle on the camera. Pour the paint. Technique a couple of times. And it seems like it's always describe it. Oh, so the petals, they always kind of seem like they would run over. So what I noticed, you know, I would have mixed my paint using my regular ratios, and that was too thin. So that's why when I did it, I said I had to make it a little thicker, and that's the reason. Because with this particular technique, um, if the paint is too thin, it's just going to run over on the edges, and even though I reverse it, it just doesn't come back good. It like so I've done this, like I said, a couple of times, and when I've reversed it, and I'll explain what reversing is when I get there, the paint will I'll say shrink up, if that's a good word for it, but when it goes to dry, it still will spread too much, and it's spreading too much because it's just that thin. So we're going to do one more layer, and then we're going to reverse it. See, the white, because it's my regular ratio, I kind of just feel like it's still, the white is still thin. So I'm going to let that just sit for a couple of secs. I'm going to take it off now. So if we reverse it like so, we're going to have like a big opening right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the opening a little bit. We don't want it to look so boring in the middle. Okay, so see how it's still spreading and it's spreading over? And that's what I was talking about when I said, so if the paint was thinner, it would have already spread it all on all sides, and it would just be that. I think I'm just going to try to do a little something. If you see, I'm just using the bottom of the stick. I would go out this way, but the thing is, because it already went over on that edge, I'm not going to do that. So when I say reverse, see how it's going off, or see how it's like the puddles are out. So when I reverse it, what's going to happen is that I'm going to put a paper towel on top of it and a wet paper towel, and then I'm going to take the paper towel off, and then it's going to reverse itself. I'm trying to see if there's any air bubbles that I need to blow, and it doesn't look like it. So again, we're going to use our water bottle, and we have paper towels. So what I do, and this is even true when I'm doing a swipe, when I'm using a paper towel to do a swipe. Let me look at one thing. Let me see if I can just bring this back a little bit. Okay. I never had to have this brown about this. Okay, so I'm just going to spray. I'm not sure if this is on camera or not, but I'm just spraying this lightly. I'm not going to soak it. You know, it's for a nice mist. Let me think about this. I can't use that one because I got paint on it. And it would be just my misfortune that I would get the paint right in like the yellow part or the white part. And we wouldn't want that. Okay, so I sprayed my paper towel. Now I'm going to place the paper towel on the canvas. And I'm going to kind of like gently press down on it. So okay. I'm kind of purposely waiting at this point. Okay, so then when I take it up, you'll see the design it'll form when I take it up. But I'm going to take it up side by side, side by side. Okay, so I'm going to take this corner, or maybe I should say corner by corner. So I'm going to take this corner and we're going to meet. And then I'm going to take this corner and we're going to meet. Voila. So that looks pretty cool to me. I don't know if you can tell the cells are starting to activate. And you know, it's not leaning over anymore. I'm going to just try to see what this does. No, it's not doing right. So why I was going to try to get it to come over some, I'm not going to do it anymore because now it's kind of distorting it. I was trying to get it to come over some because the paint is fluid, right? And it travels. And so I'm trying to not have it travel back over. I don't really have control over that though, right? Because it's fluid and paint will still move even after I'm done. It will move. It will, I should say, it can move even after I'm done. It can shift and, you know, we'll see how it goes. So if you see, we have some light cells. I'm not sure if you could tell, but when I torched it, I got a couple of more. So what I'm going to do is I will take it down. I'm going to put some more black around here and tighten up the edges, and then I'll bring you in for a close-up. For the close-up, so as you see, we have a few cells here and there. They're little, but that's okay for this type of technique. I expect some cells to populate or form when I do the reverse part, but I don't expect it to have a lot of cells. It's just a technique that we used. So here it is all the way. As you can see, the paint is starting to shift again off that right side. So I'll have to make a decision whether this is a keeper or a scraper. I want to just thank you for your time and your patience. I hope that I've answered some of your questions. If you are a new artist trying this art form, acrylic paint pouring, and let me know if you have any other questions. You can leave comments in the comment section, or you can DM me on my Instagram, or my email will be in the description as well. So until we meet again, cheers to painting.